Unshelling Medicine Podcast. Healthcare in the language we understand.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. I have the pleasure of having Melissa Klepacki with us. Melissa is a gut health expert. So we're going to talk about everything gut, including poop, right? Exciting stuff. You know, if you're in healthcare, these are the kinds of things that excite us. And if you're human, it should excite you too, because everything related to the gut, and including elimination of any sort, especially that of the poop business, can help you kind of have a handle on your health. So on this podcast, we talk about everything that is popular, unpopular, and everything in between. And today is no different. The premise is to educate. The premise is to provide information and help us live this human experience that we have. So pull up a chair. Let's talk gut. Hi, Melissa. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And yes, we need to talk about poop, and we need to talk about it more often because we don't talk about it after our kids are potty trained. When was the last time you asked your teenager, did you poop this morning? You probably didn't. I have 2 teenage boys and I ask them regularly. It's really important. It is a wonderful way for you to measure your health. Once you stop pooping well, you know something's gone wrong. It is an early indicator. And if you jump on it, you avoid a lot of problems down the line.
Beautiful. So there's so many things you could have focused on. Why gut health?
So it came to me, it wasn't my choice to be the poop master, as some people call me, and sort of mortifying, right? Of course, for my teenage boys. But it is so important. Everything boils down to gut health. You want your skin to look better? Gut health. You want to lose a little bit of weight? Gut health, right? You've got skin issues like eczema, gut health. You've got migraines, possibly gut health. Problems with your vagina and vaginal dysbiosis, also tied to the gut. Sometimes mouth problems tied to the gut. I mean, the studies that are coming out are rapid, and we are learning so much about the gut microbiome. But the reason that I wound up here was sort of a windabout road. I studied acupuncture and Chinese medicine in the early 90s, which is the true root cause medicine, which I love. And I still use all of the foundations that I learned today. I practiced actually acupuncture in sports medicine for a little while after I graduated from acupuncture school. And then while keeping my hand in the world of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, went out and explored lots of different things. I started a few companies. I did just really interesting things with my life, but wound up back fully in medicine when I got sick myself in 2009. I woke up one morning, my left arm was numb. Long story short, by the end of the day, I wound up at the doctor's office. My left side was numb, went to the hospital 3 days later. They let me go saying, we don't know what's wrong with you. All of your tests are normal. I had problems for about 3 weeks, and then everything seemed to resolve almost like a mysterious virus. And then the GI problems started. And I had a lot of pain in my stomach. I had a scope from the top called an endoscopy, a scope from the bottom called a colonoscopy. I even swallowed a camera that traveled through my system, taking a zillion pictures, and they came up with nothing. Turns out I had Lyme disease. I not only had Lyme disease, but I had co-infections. So ticks carry more than Lyme disease, but I had Babesia bartonella and Rocky Mountain spotted fever, complicated by parasites and mold, and I was a sick chicken. I took a ton of antibiotics, lots of trial and error with medications, and wound up with a gut that just didn't work. And even though I had all this training in root cause medicine, I was that woman at 2:00 in the morning Googling, why can't I poop? Constipation remedies, help me lose the bloat. And just like my current clients, tried everything. I changed my diet. I upped the fiber. I lowered the fiber. I tried the FODMAP diet. I took enzymes. I took beta HCl to strengthen my stomach. I mean, everything, including all those tests. And finally found a functional medicine practitioner who helped me understand my gut microbiome with some great testing. And I was able to see that probably due to lifestyle, diet, and those antibiotics had decimated all the good bacteria in my gut. I had lots of bad guys that had overgrown. I had a little H. pylori in there. I had some sensitivity to gluten. This test is remarkable and shows you, it's the test I use with my private clients, and it shows you everything about your gut microbiome so that you can actually make the changes that you need to make so that you can heal yourself. So that's what I did. I did it with somebody back in 2016. The test has gotten so much better since then. And I started working more and more with people with chronic illness that were undiagnosed, like I was. I went 5 years undiagnosed. From 2009 to 2014, I went to doctors in 3 states. I went to the Mayo Clinic for a week, and no one knew what was wrong with me. And that is unbelievably frustrating.
Yeah.
So that's my story. And that's how I wound up in gut health, because all of the people that came to me, all of these chronic illness patients that couldn't be diagnosed and couldn't get out of their own way, none of them were pooping. None of them. And so if you're not pooping well, that's where we start, always. And that's the work I do today.
It's amazing how a personal need, usually leads us to a path and what we're supposed to do. And it took 5 years of you going through it, in all caps, for you to find your path in helping people. So you talked about the effect of antibiotics on your gut health. And most people don't realize that this is a thing. Can you please talk a little about that or just highlight that some more?
Sure. So antibiotic, just the word, right? Anti means against and biotic means life. So antibiotics are killers and they're indiscriminate. So when you take an antibiotic, not only are they killing the bacteria they're intended for, but they're going to kill a lot of other good guys in your gut microbiome. And if you are not replacing them with a solid probiotic, good choices in foods, including probiotic foods, and watching your diet, it's going to be really hard to recover even from 1 dose of antibiotics. It really is. The studies are there. If people want to do the research, you need to be really prudent about taking Z-packs and antibiotics. A lot of things like ear infections are shown to no longer need antibiotics, yet we still give them to children time and time again. We're ruining our kids' microbiomes, and it's not easy to recover, not impossible. I see it all the time. We do the work, but it takes work to recover. So much easier to preventatively care for your microbiome than it is to destroy it and try to recover it.
So we're talking about children, and, we have MRSA today, which is methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. And this is something that one of the bugs that happened as a result of antibiotics abuse. So in the United States, we have a respect. I don't know whether to call it respect, because you still find pocket people that are not as, I don't know whether to use respect, but we have a certain level of reverence, I should say, for medical practitioners, given that they went to school for this, they studied this, they know this stuff. And sometimes self-advocacy suffers as a result, because there's this wholehearted trust that if this person is telling me to take this medication, that means they know this is going to help me, especially when you're in a place where you're most vulnerable seeking help. What can you say to a listening audience when it comes to self-advocacy and also maybe second opinions, right, about treatment modalities that may have a long-term effect, especially when it has to do with the gut and the important role the gut has to do with the everyday functionality?
Medicine, the system is broken, right? You get 7 or 8 minutes with a doctor when you walk in for a complaint. My husband went to the doctor for high blood pressure, and he wasn't asked about his diet. He wasn't asked about his exercise. He was weighed and measured and given a prescription for Wegovy, which is the GLP-1 shot, right? Like sight unseen. Like that's not good medicine. That's not the way it used to be. You used to know your provider. They used to know your family and your health history. And now when you walk into a doctor's office, you're a number. They don't know who you are. So in terms of getting second opinions, my advice to people is always, always seek natural treatment first. Ask yourself when you get ill, look at your foundational health practices. How is my diet? How is my stress? How is my my hydration? Am I exercising? And nutrition, hydration, mindfulness, movement. Am I exercising? And sleep? How am I sleeping? Those are the 5 pillars. We always start there, even with gut health. My questions to my clients are about those 5 pillars of health to start. You should be asking yourself, which of the 5 pillars of health need work for me? Where was the breakdown when I got sick? And how can I get myself out of it with approaching those 5 pillars of health and maybe something, for instance, herbal or nutritional? That's where we should be starting. We shouldn't be running to the doctor with our hand out looking for a magic solution, right? Everything can be found in a pill. It's not the way it works. That's not the way health works. You are not sick because of a lack of a pill. So I think we've been very disempowered. You're right. Like, we have been taught to trust your doctor. However, that doesn't mean that we are not responsible for our own health and the health of the people that we love. It's our responsibility to do the research, to ask questions, to be informed, and not be led blindly. It's the same thing with the grocery store. It's a much less impactful point, but when you walk into the grocery store, there probably are 60% of the things you could buy in there are not food. They're food products. They'll give you some calories, probably not much nutrition. But you walk into that grocery store blindly accepting that everything in that store is healthy for you. We're hearing it on the news now, right? All the additives, all the seed oils, all the coloring. It's never been healthy for us yet. It's been in our foods. And we assume when we walk into a market that all of that stuff is edible and healthy. Think again. It's our responsibility to do the research, to do our due diligence and to know what we're feeding ourselves, because that's where health starts. Same thing when choosing a doctor.
Yeah, I agree. I think as a society, we've become accustomed to not wanting to experience discomfort, because that is often what takes people to the doctor, the symptom of an underlying problem. So because the symptom is uncomfortable, we want that to be handled or treated or make it go away. But unfortunately, the underlying issue is still there and it's not taken care of. So it's almost like a whack-a-mole, right? You whack the symptom down, it's going to pop up somewhere else. Something else is going to pop up. And there's this continuous treatment. Okay, here's a pill for the symptom. Here's a pill for the symptom. Here's a pill for the symptom. And sometimes, or a lot of times, they're very short-sighted to the effects of this pharmaceutical therapy on the bodies, as opposed to, okay, how am I sleeping? What is my stress level? Like you said, hydration. Am I eating the right foods? Am I eating proper foods, as opposed to food product or dye additives that are causing issues in my body? So you talk about the importance of gut health, and you mentioned microbiome. To a person who's never heard the term microbiome, and making sure you have a healthy ecosystem of microbiome. What is that, and why does it exist? And why do we need a healthy ecosystem of microbiomes in the gut?
Yeah, so your microbiome is really responsible for a lot of things that are happening in your body. Number one, there's the gut-brain axis. So your gut and your brain are constantly in contact, right? And in your gut is where all your neurotransmitters are made that keep you happy, dopamine and serotonin. And so if your gut is damaged, you are not going to have a great mental outlook. I see a lot of people with bad microbiomes, and microbiome is just what's living in your gut. Mostly we talk about your intestines, though we do the test that I run takes a look at what's happening in your stomach as well. But when we talk about microbiome, we're talking about everything that's living in your gut. And we know that there are things that should be there. For instance, there's a probiotic that belongs in your gut named Akkermansia muciniphila. It's sort of a new one that we've discovered. And what that's responsible for is the mucus degradation in the lining of your intestines. So if you think about food and poop moving through your intestines, you want it slippery, right? You want things to glide nice and easily. And so there is this nice, beautiful mucus layer made by this probiotic. Actually, the probiotic actually is responsible for disintegrating the lining so it builds back up. Without that probiotic, your gut lining is weak, can lead to leaky gut, can lead to food sensitivities. When we say the words leaky gut, we mean holes literally in your gut, leaks. leaks from your gut to your bloodstream, where food particles can cross that barrier. And then when in your bloodstream, you have reactions, oftentimes inflammation. If you're out there dealing with lots of inflammation and you can't figure out where it's coming from, it's your gut and your diet. So microbiome, we understand leaky gut is what happens, right, when we have the mucus not degrading that lining. So we look at that. We look on this test for how much Akkermansia muciniphila do you have? For a lot of people, it's none. They have lots of gut problems. You can replace that. So there's foods and there's probiotics now on the market that you can take to replace that. But so we are constantly learning and looking at the microbiome for the good guys that belong there and the jobs that they do, the bad guys that we know that get in there and the damage that they do, right? And we're always trying in the world of gut health to bring the bad guys down and lift the good guys up. So that's the microbiome. Did I do a good job explaining that?
You did a great job. And when you tell people that things living in their gut, they get creeped out. We have the normal floras. We're all made up of very unique colonies of bacteria in our bodies, and they have different function. So the one in your gut is your microbiome. That is the ecosystem of the healthy microorganisms that help you function. And I think it's quite amazing. Every time we talk about this gut-brain connection, it's quite amazing because I'm such a visual person. So when you actually look at the intestines and the brain and the rouges in the brain, they resemble one another. And, when that formation happened from a fetus at conception, the brain and the gut is together and they kind of like separate, but they keep that communication alive. And it's such a beautiful phenomenon and such a beautiful relationship that they work together to keep us safe. Okay, so we talked about microbiome and elevating the good guys and lowering the bad guys. And you talked about your journey of trial and error, okay? And your brain just not telling you, hey, Melissa, this is not working. The gut is like, okay, Melissa, this is not working. What is that journey like to, once the problem is identified or once you identify that you're lacking in certain microbiomes in your gut and the intention is to replenish or replace them? What is that process like working with you?
That's a great question. So there's a 3R process that's pretty standard in the gut health community. The first thing we do is remove. We remove what doesn't belong there. I'm not a medical doctor. I don't use pharmaceutical drugs. I use herbs and homeopathy to help people. So the first thing we do is we run the testing, right? If we don't know what's going on, we don't know how to treat it. So we run the testing, we see what bad guys are there. We create a protocol with herbs that you take for probably 6 to 8 weeks to bring those numbers down. We look also on that test at the level of the good guys, which ones are missing. Then between things like probiotics and probiotic foods, we try to raise those levels. And then we do some repairing because when there has been gut damage, you need to repair the gut lining. So we use things like L-glutamine and zinc and aloe, lots of really soothing herbs to help kind of knit that gut lining back together and stop problems from happening in the future. So really it is a 3-part cycle of remove, replace, and repair. And it takes, it can take 4 to 6 months to really restore your gut microbiome. That's really what it took me before I was really able to regulate everything and kind of move past it. But you need to work through it because your damage wasn't created overnight and it takes time to heal.
So I know you're an author as well. And she has such a beautiful book that I would like Melissa to talk about. So tell us about your book. And this is for the group of people who like to read and kind of like go on a DIY journey or at least have your oversight without having to jump right in and work one-on-one with you. So please tell us about your book, where we can find a copy, and things of that nature, and what you have in that book when it comes to gut
All
health.
the secrets? You want all the secrets?
Everything.
I'm going to give them all to you right now. So this book was a labor of love that came out of me doing research both on myself and for my clients to really narrow it down to what causes constipation. Because when I went to the doctor the first time, the Western medical doctor, and said, I haven't pooped in 5 days. I don't know what to do. This is becoming a regular thing. It's a big problem. He said, drink more water, eat more fiber, go get some Miralax and take it when you can't poop. And I said, for how long? And he said, until you get better. This book was written for people like that, for people who've been giving that kind of advice, because it's much more than water and fiber, though both of those things are really important. So there's 8 root causes of constipation. And I will be 55 next month. I'm a girl of the 70s and 80s, and I grew up reading Cosmo magazine, and I loved the quizzes that helped me to identify, was I a romantic? Or, should I be getting a dog? Or whatever the quizzes were. I just loved to be able to self-identify. So I created, in each chapter of my book, for each of the causes, there's a quiz that you can take to understand whether that is impacting your gut health and constipation. So the 8 reasons for constipation start with dehydration, which means you could be drinking water all day long, but still be dehydrated. You can understand that, why that happens in my book. The second thing is food sensitivities. So we're eating the wrong things. That includes dietary fiber, but we have to realize that if we're not moving our bowels on a daily basis and we try to up our fiber, it's like stuffing banana peels down a kitchen sink that's already clogged. It's never going to get through. So that fiber is going to sit, it's going to bloat you more, it's going to frustrate you. There is a proper order for doing things. So that is the reason number 2. We also take a look at liver health, really not recognized as a factor in constipation, but bile is really important in digestion and in moving your bowels. And if your liver is clogged up by there's a new name for it. We used to call it non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I think they have a new name for it. But if you've been told your liver enzymes are high or you have fatty liver, that could be impacting your constipation. Medications are another reason. Most people by my age are on 4 or 5 medications, and unbeknownst to them, they're causing their constipation. I can't tell you how many phone calls I've had with people. And as we go back in the history, it just takes one phone call. Because as we go back in their history and I say, what are your medications? And they will say, like, I just started the birth control pill 6 months ago. And I'll look at their chart and say, and your constipation has been going on for 6 months? Okay, that's not working for you, right? Lots of medications, lots of blood pressure medications and depression medications are causing constipation for people, and they don't even know it. So that's a conversation that you should have with your doctor. You should be Googling side effects of medications before you take them. So that is chapter number 5, I think, liver dysfunction. Gut dysbiosis, which we've talked about a lot today. Not having the proper bacteria, not having the right gut lining. All of those factors in your gut play a role in constipation. Understanding that can be a big deal for you if that's a factor. Toxins are a big one for people. We live in a very toxic world now. The number of chemicals is unbelievable. Our bodies just aren't equipped to handle them. We see that in liver function because a lot of the toxins are processed through your liver, but also things like mold exposure and parasites can really wreak havoc on your gut microbiome. Mold is not talked about nearly enough. We know that 60% of houses contain toxic mold. People just are living with it. As a caveat, one of the things I always tell my clients who have an inkling they might have mold is go to your house, to your least used bathroom, if you have one, like something in your basement maybe, and lift off the back of the toilet, that big block, that big ceramic block, and give a good sniff and take a peek. And if you see mold or mildew, you've got a problem, because mold loves standing water. And that's exactly what that toilet is standing water. So mold can really slow everything down in the gut. So we always take a look at that. If that's a factor for people, there are ways to get mold out of your body, to detox from that. And then the last factor for constipation is nervous system dysregulation. And I talk about that with a lot of facets. For a lot of people, it's as simple as circadian rhythm. People are not sleeping regularly. On the weekends, they're going to bed at 2 and getting up at noon. And during the week, they're going to bed at midnight and getting up at 6. Their bodies don't know morning from night. They've been stressed out. Maybe they have a history of trauma. The vagus nerve isn't firing. There's lots of reasons. Are you relating?
Yeah.
Lots of reasons for people to have gut issues that have to do with nervous system dysregulation, and people don't even think about it as being a factor. So that's the whole idea. You sort of fix yourself by understanding what's causing your constipation. There's all kinds of tips and tricks to fix each issue on your own.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And where can we find the book before I ask the next question?
Yes, Amazon.com. It's in hardback. And actually, right now, it's free on Kindle. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can download it for free. So share that news with your friends, because that's super exciting. And if people need more help, I do lots of other things to help people. I see people one-on-one all the time. I have just phone calls with people like you would a regular doctor's appointment. I run people through 4-month detox programs regularly. I do a gut health program. The next one starts September 8th. It's a 21-day, really cool program to get your bowels back on track. This is who this program is for, because I have answered a lot of questions in the last week because registration is currently open. And people will say, oh, my constipation's not that bad. I go to the bathroom 3 times a week and I manage. I take a little Senna or I drink Smooth Move tea. That's a big faction of people that come to me like, I don't know if the program's right for me because I'm not that constipated. The other end of that spectrum, I had a conversation yesterday with an 18-year-old woman who eats 3 foods, cannot move her bowels without an enema, and she has been on a 5-year path and it has gone like this. Constipation doesn't get better on its own. You have to understand what's driving it. You have to take a look at your 5 foundational health practices and how things are moving in all of those directions for you before you can really understand and get a hold on your constipation. So that's what we do. 21 days together. It's a women's only program. We use Facebook. We have a group there. We try to create accountability partners with each other so we can support each other, because constipation is so lonely. Your friends are so sick of hearing that you can't go to the beach because you're bloated, or you can't go out to dinner because that restaurant, I can't eat anything there. It's awful. It is so isolating, and we don't heal well when we're isolated. So this group is for you. If you're in that little bucket that says it's not so bad yet, this is for you, so you don't wind up needing my one-on-one help for 6 months to a year, because that is no way to live your life. So I'm starting that in September. And on the heels of that, I run a parasite cleanse. Parasite cleansing is really important. I encourage people to follow me over on TikTok and Instagram, where I talk about it. I do parasite cleanses twice a year for my clients. I also do them myself. I also do them with my kids and my husband. I also do them at the same time for my animals. Really important that we are cleansing. You'll lose so much inflammation and feel so much better and poop like a champ if you've done some parasite cleansing. So that comes on the heels of the Gut Reset 123 program, which is my September program. And it's called the Full Moon Reset. And that's in October. And I'll do both of those programs again sometime in 2026.
Beautiful. I love it. And I cringe when you mentioned the young lady that only eats 3 foods. There's a lot left out. It's a whole lot left out. But, that's the beauty about life. You learn, you do better, and you move on, right? So with her being with you one-on-one, she is going to learn and kind of reset her life, because I can only imagine what she's feeling and what she's going through. When we talk, you mentioned toxins, and then you mentioned parasite, and people don't understand the reason for parasite cleanse is not just to get the parasites out of your body. It's also to eliminate the toxins they secrete when they're in your body. So that is what makes you sick. Yes, they're in an environment they shouldn't be. However, they also secrete toxins that is poisonous to your body. Toxins, not only poison, but excessive consumption of alcohol is also a toxin. Going out and having a great time is going out and having a great time. However, everything to moderation. Some would even say just avoid it in completion, just totally if you can. So the hidden toxin in almost everything we do, even with the lotions we use, the aerosols for cleaning and different things. So this is a very important conversation. When you talked about sleep, and I could relate, as a mother, we don't prioritize sleep, or as mothers, we don't prioritize sleep.
As mothers, we don't prioritize ourselves. Let's be honest.
That was good. Yes. I stopped when I said sleep. I'm like, we don't prioritize ourselves. So, that bit is relatable. And also as a founder, as a business owner, you're everything. You wear all the hats. So losing track of time and doing things into ungodly hours happens quite a bit. I think is just important not to make it a habit. And, this speaks to everybody, even parents, mom, dad, entrepreneurs, leaders, managers, C-suite execs, everyday people. I love that your book covers all of that and people can find themselves in every aspect, as opposed to a one-size-fits-all approach of go eat more fiber, go drink more water, go to your local drugstore and pick up something off the shelf to help you poop. The holistic adjustments that we can make in our lives to put on the right path, which is, thank you for sharing your journey, really, because you could have gone through this and kept it to yourself, just like a lot of the clients that come to you that cannot be honest with their family members and their friends about the elimination habit. Rather, they make an excuse of not being able to participate in activity. I'm too bloated, I'm too tired, but what is making you feel that way? So I thank you for sharing your journey and actually using your journey to enrich the lives of others. It's quite commendable.
Thank you. I've come a long way from a girl who never could talk about poop, couldn't look at it, couldn't think about it, to someone who wrote a book about it. I don't know, people, things happen in the world that you don't expect. This journey has been wild, but I couldn't be prouder and I couldn't be happier to be able to help people with this because it's life changing. I watch people come back to life when they can get back to living.
Yeah. So, it's something, I don't know, maybe from a nurse's perspective, elimination, especially pooping, is something that it's one of those cardinal things that must happen. Okay. If you go into the hospital and you have a procedure, right? Before discharge, you must pass gas or you must poop. It's one of those, if emphasis is placed on something of that nature when it comes to you going home to make sure that the passage can do what it's supposed to do. Everybody should kind of pay attention to it. It is an important activity. It really is. And so before we wrap up our conversation, how do you navigate working with clients who may have specific nutritional needs, whether it's cultural or whether it's lifestyle, in helping them balance their microbiome? So in the case of people that do not eat meat or red meat and their deficiency in the vitamin, then there's replacement. Do we replace that with supplements? Like, how do you manage that? So I'm asking, for the benefit of everybody listening to us who want to work with you, but they understand that their diet may be a little different from the typical American diet.
Gotcha. I understand dietary choices. However, there is what makes you poop well and what makes you not poop well. For instance, for many, many people, dairy stops your bowels. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with that come to me for constipation, and I will go through their diet and they will have a ton of dairy. And I will say, you need to stop eating dairy. That's an issue. And they will say, it's not an issue. I don't have any problem. And I say, are you constipated? That's your sign that dairy is not working for you. They're not having diarrhea. They're not throwing up. They're not having pain, but they're having this chronic constipation. And when we take dairy out and do a little repair, voila. So, there are things that are non-negotiable. I love people to look at their food sensitivities. It's an at-home food sensitivity test, 5 drops of blood on a little card. You order it, it comes to your house, you put it back in the mail, you get your results. You know what's driving your inflammation. If you have a question, is it dairy? Is it avocados? Is it almonds? Take the test, understand, get the results, and move on with healing, right? But there are, besides that, the other non-negotiable is fiber. If you are not eating fiber, you will not have a bulky stool. You need the bulk in your stool to send messages to your intestines to contract and push the food through. If you are eating a diet that is very low in fiber, it's going to sit like glop in your intestines. Now, that said, and I'm not a nutritionist. I've studied nutrition, but that's not my title. But I know what I know about gut health, and fiber is non-negotiable. But if you're not moving your bowels every day, like we discussed, and you try to stick a lot of fiber inside of a tube that's already full and not moving, you're going to wind up with a lot of bloat and a lot of problem. So first we get the bowels moving regularly, and then we start adding fiber, and then we do some gut repair. That's gut reset 1, 2, 3. We are moving through a system together, because if you do it out of order, you wind up bloated and miserable, and you say, fiber didn't work for me, but it's because you didn't do it the right way. So in terms of working with people, I don't care if people eat meat or don't eat meat. I'm more looking for what's not working for you and taking a look at your overall diet. I like people to get 30 different fruits and vegetables a week, which, especially while we're working on gut health. And a lot of people will come in and say, that's a shocking number. I only get 10. But when you start adding salads with lots of vegetables or soups, I have a great recipe for what I call good poop vegetable soup. People can access that at startpoopingbetter.com. I wrote a little ebook and it's in there. So if you don't know where to start today, you listened and you're like, I'm not sure if I want the book or a program. I need a little bit more. Startpoopingbetter.com. Get the ebook. It talks about the 8 root causes. There's the recipe for good poop vegetable soup. And I talk about the importance of understanding your transit time. Transit time is the time between when you put it in your mouth and it comes out in the toilet. That's understanding what your motility is. You need to understand how many hours it takes food to pass before we can really understand what kind of constipation you have and what the treatment should be.
So is there an age limitation to starting to focus on having a good gut health or good microbiomes for a healthier lifestyle?
Babies, please, out there, read the studies. Read the studies of C-section babies who don't have the benefit of passing through the vaginal canal, where they orally pick up mom's vaginal microbiome and start their own microbiome. They are relatively sterile, right, when they're in the womb. When they are pushed out, they start to build their own microbiome. The second thing that happens is when mom puts baby to breast, there's also organisms that are there that are helping to infiltrate the baby's GI system. It starts at birth. We need to be paying attention at birth to our kids' microbiomes. Antibiotics in the first year of life, a lot of problems. We set kids up for a lot of allergies and problems down the line. So we need to be thinking about it at birth. I don't work with kids. I started 18, but I'm sure there are great gut health practitioners out there for kids. If your baby when my son was born, who's now turning 18 on Saturday, for the first 2 months of his life, I couldn't put him down. I was nursing. I would feed him, and he would scream for an hour or two. And I was beside myself. I live in Princeton, New Jersey. I took him down to Philadelphia, to Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and he wound up having a milk protein allergy, which means me having milk, it came out in my breast milk and affected him. So I had to go dairy-free really strictly for the year. I nursed him for a year, for the year that I nursed him. But you can see how important it is for babies. There are babies that have tons of eczema. That's a gut problem. People just, we're getting there in understanding this, but it's coming slowly. So if you're listening to this, thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging in there and for educating yourself. And I hope you'll share this information with the people that you love, because gut health is so important.
Yes, absolutely. So you mentioned your TikTok account. You mentioned your website. Please, can you tell us your social handles, website again? And for anybody who doesn't catch it in this broadcast, we're going to make sure we have it in the show notes so you can just click into it and be directed. But please tell us what social platforms that we can find you on, Melissa.
You can access everything I do. If you go to my website, which is my name, melissahallklepacki.com/everything, It'll show you everything I do. It'll show you the gut programs that I run. It will show you the tests that you can order direct from my website, the food sensitivity test we talked about, the microbiome test we talked about. You can order those directly through there. Links to my social. I'm on TikTok. I have a YouTube channel where I review lab results on Tuesdays. It's called Test Don't Guess Tuesday. I talk a lot about those 2 test results in particular. I'm kind of all over the place. Google my name and you'll find me. I do a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of speaking engagements. I'm here to help. So reach out if you need it.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll make the website available in the show notes, and you can click in and find Melissa on all the social media platforms that she's on. So Melissa, because I absolutely love more information, I usually ask my guests before they leave, can you please leave us with a golden nugget or a few golden nuggets that we can put into practice?
Okay, let me think. I did an interesting post this morning about kombucha. Kombucha, if you don't know it, it's pretty trendy and it's labeled as a gut health drink. However, contains tons of sugar and it's fermented. So I have a lot of clients that will come and say, I've tried to drink kombucha and it just makes me worse. Right. So I think that is we have to be really careful when it comes to gut health. There's a lot of fads and trends, and there's also a ton of science coming out. So I think instead of doing things like kombucha with lots of sugar and the fermented aspect of it, if you're looking to increase gut health, my biggest piece of advice is try some sauerkraut. You need to make sure that you're buying it at a market where it's refrigerated, that it doesn't contain vinegar, and that it says on the label live probiotics. You don't need much. A tablespoon to 2 tablespoons on the side of a dinner plate at night. I do it now for my family and my kids, not with every dinner, maybe 3 to 4 times a week. The one that I use has some turmeric in it, which is great for inflammation. And it's kind of like eating pickles. You can also do that same thing with pickles if your pickles are refrigerated and fermented and not with vinegar. The pickles that you buy on the shelf at the grocery store in the jars that are warm are not going to help your gut. You need to go to the refrigerated section and make sure it says live probiotics. So getting those types of foods, we know, do a lot better of a job reaching the intestines than any probiotic can. So if you're working on gut health and you're looking for one really simple, easy way to increase the good probiotics in your gut, start with some sauerkraut.
Thank you for that. Thank you. So sauerkraut is going to sell off the shelves or the refrigerator at this point. Thanks to Melissa. So sauerkraut and the pickle from the refrigerator, not the shelf. So thank you so much for the beautiful education and also the work that you do. It is appreciated. I learned a lot. I learned as a mother to also prioritize myself. And I know this, but life. It was a pleasure having you. I know we got talking. And please, guys, ladies, everybody listening, grab a copy of that book. If you have Kindle, you get a free copy. If not, you can purchase a copy right off of Amazon and read it, understand it. If you are so inclined, please reach out to Melissa. You'll be surprised how your health turns around. Your gut is very important. So work on it. Do it for you. Do it for you. That's all I can say. So thank you again, Melissa. I'm very grateful for your presence. And yeah, bye, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to Unshelling Medicine Podcast. If you want to stay up to date with the latest episodes, make sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave us a review. Follow us on social media at Altruistic Scribe on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We share additional tips, updates, and health-related content that you won't want to miss. Have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes? Reach out to us at altruisticscribeco.com. We're always eager to hear from our listeners and tackle the health topics that matter most to you. Until next time, stay healthy and take care.